Lots in the news today and lots of new phones. One from Samsung as yet unreleased, and Chinese smartphone brand Xiaomi released a new phone today that just looks like a killer deal in the mid-range segment. But we start with Samsung, so let's get into it. So we got this leak yesterday from EV Leaks showing us a new phone from Samsung. And believe it or not, this is the first ever smartphone from Samsung that will be using a pop-up camera. Well, we did have the A80 that used a pop-up swivel camera where the camera swiveled round, but this is the first time Samsung are going to be using this singular pop-up design that we've seen in a lot of other smartphones, especially Chinese brands last year. It seems like most Chinese brands anyway are actually moving away from the pop-up camera now and using the hole punch design, which coincidentally Samsung actually brought to the market and made popular. So it's a kind of strange move that Samsung are going for a pop-up camera. But if you look at the phone, it looks like a mid-range or maybe a budget type device. It's got fingerprint sensor on the back. So we would assume an LCD display. And I guess in that price range, maybe having a bezel-less display is something of a selling point over maybe others that are still using a notch or maybe a cutout. We actually got news a while back saying Samsung would offload a lot of its production of mid and budget end devices to a Chinese factory, which is what a lot of Chinese brands do to lower prices. So this may be one of those phones. They've got a design from the manufacturer who can put it together pretty cheaply, and so they've decided to go with that. If we look at the phone itself, apparently it's got a 6.5-inch screen and a triple camera setup. We would assume a main, an ultra wide, probably a macro sensor too. We'll wait and see what price it comes at, but yeah, definitely the only other phone I can think of that's new that still has the pop-up camera is the Redmi K30. That's a flagship killer type phone. It used that last year, but the first ever pop-up camera in this style from Samsung. We'll have to see what markets it comes at and at what price it comes at too. Staying with Samsung though, and actually this phone may lead into this next story. Samsung are having a terrible time of it in India right now. They have been beaten for the first time ever by a Chinese brand, Vivo. In terms of sales, this is in Q1 2020. Vivo have seen unbelievable growth in that region, growing 132% year on year, which is actually insane growth. And actually all of the Chinese brands are growing in the market, and it's at Samsung's expense. So what's happening here is that Vivo are selling the first smartphone for a lot of people. You can see the others column is getting a big retraction, more than 50% down. They are feature phone brands, and people are moving from feature phones into their first smartphone, and Vivo are selling those kind of like entry-level smartphones. You can see all of the BBK brands are having a really good time of it in India right now. Vivo, Oppo, and Realme, even OnePlus are a BBK brand, and they take quite a big percentage of the high-end market in India. So if you add them all up, they make over 40% of the market. So Samsung is getting really beaten by BBK and Xiaomi. The reason for that is that the BBK family are selling phones at paper-thin margins. They're just trying to go for volume. Samsung is just getting absolutely beaten out. Maybe this new phone with the pop-up may be an attempt to try and offer some new features similar to what other people are getting in the Chinese brands. They're obviously working in that country. The other big news today is from Xiaomi, and they launched a new phone, the Mi 10 Lite. This is called the Mi 10 Youth Edition in China, and this is based on the Mi 10 Lite, which was released in Europe a while back, but it's slightly different. This is one of the first, or the first phone at this price point to come with a periscope zoom camera. This is really important. You know what Xiaomi do? They offer specs and hardware, and they offer low prices too. This has come at a really cheap price in China, like 2,500 RMB. That is like $350, maybe $400 US. You're getting a Snapdragon 765G mid-range chipset, the best one in the mid-range, just one step down from the Snapdragon 865, the flagship. You get an AMOLED display, and you get a 5x optical zoom camera. You get a quad camera setup as well. It just looks on the specs sheet just such a good deal. Obviously, results, we don't know about those yet until we can get some real phones in our hands, but Xiaomi just keep giving great specs at a great price. Is this going to come outside of China? Possibly, but there is also the Mi 10 Lite, and they may just sell the Mi 10 Lite as the cheaper light version of this phone. So this may not ever come out of China, but it looks like an amazing phone in terms of the price, the specs that you get. Xiaomi also released MIUI 12 today, the latest upgrade to their operating system based on Android. The big takeaways really are just design changes throughout the whole system. Different designs, more modern animations, slightly modified animations in terms of how the apps swipe in and out when you press them. And you can use different swipe gestures now. Everything's been changed and upgraded from MIUI 11 to bring it into a bit more modern design language. That's it for your news today anyway, a short one today, not a lot of news. Check out the other channel for some more videos though, and I'll see you next time.